What's up? We're back with a new episode of Spotlight. This time we're talking about the wonderful career of Dave Bautista, um, who's an actor. He's really become an actor and he's really improved over his films. So we wanted to highlight him in four different roles, and the first of which, probably the one he's most well known for, Drax the Destroyer, or as he says, just Drax, in the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Avengers films. Nick, would start out with his introduction in Guardians of the Galaxy, and we'll kind of talk about his whole character arc and how he's gotten better as an actor since.
Yeah.
Um, what are your thoughts on him in this role?
I think like especially in like Guardians 1, which was like his first major film role, I believe so. It kind of worked that he wasn't as, I guess, as versatile yet as an actor for a character like that is supposed to take everything like literally and is supposed to be a bit of like a knucklehead. So like I think like by like just the magic of the character and Batista's style at the time, it like just came together. I think in an entertaining way. I know for me, Drax has never been one of my favorite Guardians, but I won't. But I will take the time to say that like just as a comedic presence, I think Batista's pretty entertaining, just holding his own against Pratt, Saldana, Bradley Cooper, especially. Um, I don't know. Like, I think it worked out in the beginning, just like that it was this character that it like just takes everything at face value, is kind of like this blunt person, and I think it worked out. And um, I don't. Yeah, like I guess I'll jump off of what you say. I'm trying to think of what other scenes and whatnot from the films, but I'll hand it off to you.
Yeah, I know for me, and we can hop off of Guardians and take a tour towards
Right.
Volume 2 or the Avengers films, which is really Infinity War. He's not in Endgame much.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. But yeah, I think in the first Guardians, he really is great at setting the tone for the film. When he's in there, he keeps the tone level with the humor of everything going over his head. Well, nothing goes over my head. My reflexes are too fast.
Right.
Like that sort of stuff, is perfect. It shows the humor that fits his character. Um, and I think his comedic timing's really good, and I think his physicality for the role
Yeah, for sure.
was great, which is what was frankly required of that role. Um, and I think he does a really good job of that. He opens. I like how his character is given somewhat of a backstory. He's given a reasoning why, and I think that's a little bit where he struggles early on. Is
Hmm.
the more deeper, sincere emotions. I think for his character, like kind of come across, but they're not quite as much of the forefront as they could have been.
Hmm.
And I think that's where we see more progression later on in the other films we'll talk about. But I think he's great in Volume 2, especially his relationship with Mantis and how that develops and shows like a softer side. I think
Yeah.
kind of was the first glimpse we got of him as a serious actor, even as it's mixed with comedy as he's sitting out
Mm.
on I can't remember Star Lord's father's planet.
Ego, Kurt
Egos
Russell.
as their own egos planet. That whole scene takes place, and then it's like him saying that Mantis is ugly, while at the same time telling really important like character information. I thought that was a
Yeah.
great
Even also,
little moment.
yeah, I think Volume 2, I think even just like Volume 2 as a whole, I think did a lot to like now that everyone had a chance to like go through like round one with these characters, I think they were all able to like tap in a little deeper with them. And I think Batista, um, even though Drax was not really at the of all the Guardians in Volume 2, he's probably the one at the least. But I think yeah, he still like managed to like still get his moments in, still managed to sell stuff. I still like the when he's like he gives a pep talk to Chris Pratt, and he's like, "You just need to find someone as pathetic as you are," and he's that's just like a straight like, "Yeah, of course," like that's all it is, and it's like again just the comedic timing, the sort of like I guess a deeper side to him that I think was just that he got that first all of them got that first round out of the way with Guardians 1. They were able to tap into with Volume 2.
Yeah, and then I think he's hilarious in the third Avengers film, or yeah, in Infinity War, and he just doesn't really do anything in Endgame that's beyond action
Yeah,
scene.
no. Yeah, he shows up. He shows up for as everyone else does for the final act. But Infinity War, like it's just I mean he's really only there with Chris Pratt, RDJ, and Tom Holland and Mantis. But I think it's still like he's just doing his thing. He's just by that point like he's just doing his thing. Um,
Yeah,
I
and
will and I
why is Gamora's an all-time
all time
Marvel movie moment? And
icon.
it's an
Yeah,
improvisational moment. Easy
there
for
you
me to say
go.
that word.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and like by that point, like it's we know the character, he knows the character, and but I will say, at least in connecting with like what he said like recently in interviews, I am glad that like it appears he's stepping down from the role because like I think because he isn't he's not Star Lord, he's not Gamora, he's always just been like there. I'm like that character wasn't gonna go. I feel as far. So and I know like James Gunn's already said like Guardians 3 is the last one. So like I am glad that he is like he recognizes that he's gonna choose to step down. Just because I don't think like the character wasn't gonna I don't know always like just go that way for especially for his career. Like no, even though it's Marvel Comics, he's like still like B tier amidst everyone else. So I'm excited to see like volume 3 like as a send out for him for everyone else to see how that goes because I think especially now that he has developed it as an actor I think this could be a chance to them to like send Drax off in an appropriate way.
Yeah, yeah, and even if they don't and they recast later on, I think that's fine,
Mhm.
because he set the standard for that role.
Yeah,
I think I understand because he doesn't get a ton of character development, so there may not just be a ton of energy to go back to that role and be in that paint,
yeah.
and prosthetics, which
Mhm.
must take hours each day and
Yeah.
must to get off must be terrible. So that's a thing that people underestimate how much effort it takes to
It's
do
hard.
those sort of
It's
roles.
like Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique in X-Men. So that's a whole body paint. So yeah, I'm interested to see how they send this character, how this character just gets sent off because like he's ready to step down, and like I anticipate him and Gunn will work something out in the end.
Yeah, yeah. I know the script's already written. He just hasn't read it yet.
Yeah, and I know
Um,
the holiday specials next year.
yeah,
Whatever that is.
yeah. I have no idea. But let's move on to Spectre. He got to be in a James Bond film. He got to work with director Shawn Mendes.
Sam,
James Gunn and Shawn Mendes.
Sam
Or
Mendes,
sorry, Sam,
John
Shawn Mendes.
Singer. It's okay. Another one for
I
the
don't
blue
know.
reel.
Yeah, guys, I keep on messing up these names. I'm sorry. I don't know what to do.
Okay.
But with Sam Mendes, the director of 1917, American Beauty, are the films you may know him for, or Skyfall.
Mhm.
Now, Nick, he's more of a brute, silent brute.
Yeah.
But what were your thoughts on his character in this film?
I think in the few scenes he like a classic Bond enforcer is just as long as you can pass the bar of like scary and like invulnerable, I think you're a good Bond enforcer. And I think Batista of all people, like, look at him. I think he can carry that very well. Um just in rewatching some of his scenes, like his like intro scene, I don't know if you remember, he walks into the boardroom meeting and then he like attack like puts his fingers in the guy's eyes and he just like wipes the blood off and he sits down like I think just like physicality and presence I think even in that small bit I think was pretty great to see and pretty engaging and I have to assume it comes off of years of doing something similar in the WWE of like just
Hmm.
like being there being present. um Not much beyond that though. It really is just a he's there for Daniel Craig to fight with, but I think as a silent sort of like enforcer, he's intimidating. He does what the role needs him to.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to highlight this film. It's because of the next film we're going to talk about, which we're going to jump right into, and that's Blade Runner 2049. And I think the difference between those two films is really a showing of his progression, or at
Yeah.
least given more to work with. He goes from being a brute to, I don't know, an intelligent brute, a more like
Yeah.
sophisticated. And in a 4 minute, 4.5 minute scene, he's able to show that as a replicant, he's more complicated than meets the eye.
Right.
You know, he is a person who wants to live a life. You know, he wants to just be a farmer and he's not
Right.
harming anyone. And he conveys that really well through his eyes. I think the glasses were a really helpful thing of portraying like age and vulnerability.
Right.
And I think he does that a really great job of that
Mhm.
in the first 2 minutes of a scene. And he can flip that switch of being a vulnerable guy to like I'm a massive dude and I'm going to kill Ryan Gosling's
Yeah.
character because I want to live.
Right. And
And I love how that scene works.
yeah, and like it's really something when like it's one thing to have like be a supporting character in any film and like impress people. It's another to do it when you have such a small when your role is so small and it's such a constraint of time. Like that's really impressive because you like you know it shows you made the most of it. You showed you really got in there. Something I think Blade Runner really shows that like there is a really great actor in Dave Bautista. It just depends on the writing and direction to properly bring that out. Because again, he's in there for like 5 minutes. If you look at the short film prequel they made, he adds it holds up to a total like I think 10 minutes of him as the replicant, um, and you know just short times, but he makes the most of it. And I think it's a really great just like really great showcase for him. That like oh okay like this is not just not just the big brute guy. This is someone who is able to like emote and emote pretty convincingly. Um, I love the line he has where he's like, your newer models don't get it because you've never seen a miracle or something like that.
Yeah.
Like a short, very short monologue about that, and like it's really cool. And I'm glad he got that chance. He got that role as small as it was because I think it really did help start paving the way for things like I guess we'll talk about later, like Dune and like even Army of the Dead. Like I think it helped a lot to pave that way.
Yeah. And I think it sets the scene for the whole film.
Yeah,
And I think that scene is so undervalued in its importance to the film. And I think his performance being so good there is really what helps you buy into the plot progression, Ryan Gosling's character progression for what
right.
comes next.
Yeah, for
Let's
sure.
move on though to the final film of his we're going to talk about. We skipped over My Spy for Dave Bautista's sake.
Mhm.
Um, these are just some films you do because, well, you get paid, and
Yeah,
they're
it's
not necessarily the best films, but
right.
not everyone can hit on every film.
Go
But
for it.
Army of the Dead, we just did a full review, which we'll link up above. You can go check that out. But Nick, what were your thoughts on his performances as a lead in this film?
Right. I think I won't. I'm like trying to like I guess change up my words because we did just do a review about, it, so I'm gonna like try and avoid saying the same things. But I think it was a nice change of pace seeing him in a lead. I think I would still say a part of me kind of gravitates towards Sapper Morden, which is his Blade Runner role. But I will say it's still like it's him in full action hero mode, but there is like um there was a heart. There was a made an attempt to be like to have the character have like a more emotional center. And I think Batista just as like team leader and whatnot, I think it was a pretty enjoyable performance. I like um his last scene. I won't spoil it, but
Yeah.
like I think his last scene, he gives a bit of a speech monologue, whatever you want to call it, like and to Ella Purnell, and I think he sells that very well. He's way like between this and Blade Runner, I've come to realize like his best roles, it appears, are like when he's like his soft, like he's talking quietly, is more like subtle and like I've never seen he raised his voice like only once in Army of the Dead, and like much of the time was like quieter. He's like thinking. He's like analyzing, and I like to see that because it's just you know, you could always bring him in for like a bond enforcer role where he's just there to like, you know, engage in fist fights, and not to have him as the like quiet, like perceptive one. It's just pretty. It was cool to see that difference in comparison to the earlier roles.
Yeah, I was a massive fan of that final scene.
Mhm.
And I think you're right. It's the smaller scene and more intimate scenes that he really thrives in,
Yeah.
which is funny for someone who's been in a massive blockbuster that's where his, he really shines.
Right.
And I think he's still working on getting sometimes dialogue really to like the next level to be like extra convincing when he has more. I don't want to say thespian. What I don't know what the right word is. More like
I get what you're saying.
dialogue-driven scenes.
Yeah.
Um, but you can tell he's getting better, and I think some of that is my writing stuff that I have problems with in the film,
Mhm.
more than on himself, because I think he sells that first moment where we get the flashback to what happened
Right.
between him and the rest of the family. I'm trying to be
Yeah.
purposely vague here. There's a moment that I think he sells beautifully, and I
I know.
think it's the bookend of the beginning and the end
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
that really show like, man, he's a really great actor. I'd love to see him doing a small indie where he's a lead.
Yeah.
It's no action, it's just a straight up drama like that. It doesn't have to be heavy on dialogue or anything. A
Right.
quiet film, like I feel like that's where he could really thrive.
Yeah. Like and like to again go back to Blade Runner. Like there's nothing really happening in the first part of that scene. Just him and Ryan Gosling talking. And a lot of the best moments in Army, it's a lot of just him talking with whether it's Ana de la Reguera's character Cruz or if it's Ella Purnell, his daughter. It's just him. It's just the quieter scenes that like it's really cool to see him be this more like gentle. I guess I feel like there's a better word for it, but like sort of a more gentler, like calmer presence. And again, in contrast to like Drax always being like, let's go fight and like rah rah and like, and then
Right.
Spectre role being again just like there for the fights. So a lot of the best moments I think like in Army for him are just the quieter scenes where he's talking and he's just like leading, but he's not like he's just being a much more like calmer presence around everyone else.
Yeah, I can't wait to see him in Dune.
Mhm.
um,
Knives
I
Out
can't
too.
wait to see him in Knives Out and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, of course, and whatever other roles that he chooses to
Right.
do, because I
I
think he has a real freedom now to choose from a bunch of different films.
right. I'm definitely excited for. I mean, you've read Dune, so I don't know the extent of the character, but I mean, we talked about it way back when. He looks great in the makeup. I think. Um, I mean, a part of me is like, oh, it's another like enforcer type role, but I'm gonna withhold assumptions about it until the movie comes out.
Yeah,
Um, and then Knives Out too. I'm really excited to see how he, because assuming it follows in the vein of the first one, it's probably gonna be a more comedic one. But I think also like that'll be a chance for him to just start bouncing off of like Leslie Odom Jr. and Edward Norton, like these other more like established actors. So um, I think it's gonna be interesting to see, especially with Guardians wrapping up now that he's off the Marvel contract. Where does he go? What does he choose now? Because I think another thing too is like he's becoming very picky about what he's
yeah,
being in, which is important. I think.
yeah. He talks about turning down Fast and the Furious. He was probably the first choice to play Vin Diesel's brother
Yeah.
instead of John
Um,
Cena. I'll be
mhm,
curious how they explain that, but we'll
mhm.
see. Um, Let us know what you guys think. What roles do you want to see Dave Bautista in next? What is your favorite role that he's been in so far? Is it Drax? Is it Army of the Dead? Is it Spectre? Is it Blade Runner? Let us know down in the comments section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.
Peace out.